Alright, hello everyone, Amanda here. Welcome back to my channel. If it is your first time here, jump down there and hit that subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you are informed every single time I upload new content. If you find this video at all helpful, go ahead and give it a thumbs up before you leave as well. We are going to be covering how to make a traveler's notebook cover out of a pre-made cover that you can find wherever. I happen to find these in Barnes & Nobles, but wherever you can find a book cover, then that will also work. The process and the skills for this are transferable to any book cover that you can find. So jumping right in. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to go over is really simple, and it is just going to be the tools list basically for what you will need in order to follow along with me and make your own cover. Just any kind of ruler will do. This is what I'm going to be using. You use any ruler that you have on hand, so you'll need a ruler. This is a tool that goes in with leather making to punch holes, and the mallet that goes with it. So I've just got a surface that is self-healing. That way I can lay my cover down on top, hit this, poke the hole, and not damage the surface of my table. So something to poke a hole in whatever material that you're using. If a hole punch will work, or a crop-it-out or something like that will work to punch a hole in your surface or your material, then that's going to work fine too. But because what I'm using is leather, I am going to work with leather tools. So I have these three items here for that. And then basically the only other thing that you're going to need besides the cover itself is a bit of elastic. This is the on a string elastic that I get from Michael's, Hobby Lobby. You can get it at either place. I think I picked this up at Hobby Lobby. It's 2mm elastic bead cord, and it's back in the jewelry section. So anywhere that they sell crafts and jewelry making supplies, things like that, you should be able to find elastic cord. So we will be using this. And then finally, the last thing that you're going to need is a journal cover. I'm going to run through these real quick. This obviously is my journal cover. I get questions on this thing in just about every video that I make, which is great, and is what inspired me to do this video, because everyone is saying they want to see a tutorial on how I put this together. And honestly, it could not be simpler. It is something that absolutely anyone can do. So I happen to have an almost identical journal sitting around here because I loved this design so much. I had two. This one is a little shinier, whereas this one is a little more matte and muted. But I will be doing the demonstration and creating a traveler's notebook out of this journal. But I did want to show you some other options for these as well. Here is how I pick out the different covers that I like to use for different things. This is more of a flapped over feel. You can use it as a wallet. It has a ton of possibilities. I look for journals and covers that you can take the insides out of relatively simple. For this one, I'm sure that the book itself was simply tucked in to either side of this, and then it closed up on itself. And I happen to like this strap here, which is why I picked this one up. I also picked up this journal cover because in addition to these tools, there are also a ton of leather sort of design tools and things like that, and I thought it would be extremely cool to sort of use the other tools that I have sitting over here to sort of design my own cover rather than have one pre-done. This is another one that I thought was really nice. It has sort of this mandala on here, and this one, however, is not as easy to tear apart. So it's something like this, which I've happened to have already converted over. For this one, you have to sort of gut it, and I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with these pages, but getting the bulk of the book out is what I was working with first. And I tried to get it out as intact as possible because I can use this paper for so many other things that I wanted it intact. So the book itself, the majority of the book is still intact. I just pulled that out, and for now I have left the inside of the cover intact as well until I figure out exactly what I want to do with it. But to gut something like this, you just need an X-Acto knife, something like that, where you can run the blade right along here and then just very carefully pull the book out. Now, it wasn't attached at the spine. Some are glued to the spine, some aren't. So it just depends on the kind of cover that you're going to be using as to how difficult it's going to be to pull the actual pages out of a journal. Alright, the next two are really, really simple and easy to turn into journal covers because they have these holes lining the sides. So basically the only thing that you would need for something like this is the elastic cord. You would just run the cord through the holes and go from there. They're also a lot more sturdy than the cover that I use. I happen to really like this sort of tree of life looking one and the designs around it. And then this one I thought was absolutely gorgeous. So it's actually holding a bunch of Traveler's Notebook inserts right now that I did myself. And so I have just run elastic all through here actually. I just sort of went crazy with the elastic. It's got elastics running everywhere. But it is holding 7 different inserts right now. And I think a spot to hold one more if I really wanted to shove it full. But if you would also like a tutorial on how to make actual Traveler's Notebook inserts like these, just let me know down in the comments, and that is another video that I can sort of do in this sort of series. And this just holds a bunch of Traveler's Notebook inserts. This is a sort of insert that just holds stickers and things like that, or business cards. And it's sort of a craft cardstock. These were some other pretty pattern papers that I had actually cut to the wrong size, but works okay in this particular journal. I was playing around with different types of binding methods. So these first ones up here are bound with staples. These back here are bound with string, a wax thread. So I was playing around with several different, that one's wax thread also, methods of doing that. But you can see that something like this can hold quite a bit, and I absolutely love, love, love this cover. All I did for this was run the elastics themselves through the actual holes already provided in the notebook. Alright, so that takes care of supplies and the different types of covers. So basically, when you are in the store, what you want to do is have something like a journal, whatever size you think that you're going to want. So I know that I use A5 notebooks, so I wanted to make sure that while I was out in the store looking for my covers, that I have an A5 notebook with me. Take a few inserts with you or something like that if that's what you're going to be using in yours. And what you want to do is when you find a cover that you like, and just go ahead and sort of make sure that it is going to fit in there nicely. If it has room to give a little bit, are you going to be able to fit one in there? Are you going to be able to fit more than one? Can you fit one and some inserts? Can you fit 2? I happen to like using 2 journals, just splitting up my daily planning and my collections sort of half and half. So it being able to fit and cover both of the journals was something that was important to me. For instance, this one is not going to be able to do that. It will hold one. It may hold a couple of other inserts, or it may hold several inserts at a time, but it is not gonna hold 2 journals at a time. So that was the only drawback so far for me personally for this one, because you won't, and see right now it's even a little bit bulkier than the book would really like to allow, because you can start to see where the gold here on the front cover is sort of bending over to the spine. I mean, personally, that doesn't bother me, but if it is something that would bother you, it's just a matter of taking 1 or 2 of these inserts out. But this one would hold a couple of inserts and it would fit the journal itself. Whatever you think you're going to use and however thick you think you need your journal to be able to expand is what you want to go with on the size of the journal covers that you're looking for. And then look for one that is not only appealing but looks easy enough to pull apart. I mean, unless you want to get a little bit more involved in the deconstruction of a book, then make sure that it has this kind of easy to pull out inside book. All right, and so for instance, this is the sort of journal that came on the inside of this cover, and it pulls right out. No work involved. It's done, it's out, and then you're left with nothing but the cover. Basically, from here on out, it's just actually stringing it with elastic and then getting ready to go. And it's really not that difficult of a process. You just need to measure a couple of different things, and that is going to be that. This is going to sit inside here, and voila. So you know that this is going to fit. Based on what you want to have on the inside of your journal is sort of going to determine where you need to poke your holes in the journal itself. This is an A5. It's a little over an 8 1/4 as far as height is concerned. So what I'm going to want to do is sort of center this up so that I know about where I'm going to make my holes. So let's jump in here and sort of get started stringing this up. All right, so this journal itself is going to be somewhere, it's just at 8 3/4. Whereas the journal, like I said, is just around 8 1/4. So that means I'm going to want to come in 1/4 of an inch from the top and 1/4 of an inch from the bottom. And that's where I'm going to be making my holes for this journal. So I think what I'm going to do to sort of line this up is find my center here. And I was pretty much on target with it. Make a couple of little adjustments here and there. But since I have these 2 rulers working at the same time here, I do want to sort of find my center, because that is where I'm going to be running my elastic closure through. So if this is 8 3/4, please don't make me do the math. I'm going to find the center right in and about here. So that is where I am going to put my center. And like I said, in this, since I've got this sort of lined up where I want it, I'm also going to go ahead and mark in 1/4 of an inch from here and 1/4 of an inch from here. If I can get this a little closer to where I could see it, because that is going to be where my center hole goes up top. And on the bottom, which is where my elastics are going to run through. And of course, I would come out with the smallest pin that I have. Let me grab something where I'm going to be able to see. Alright. You don't really need to worry about making marks on this side of your cover, because like I said, you're going to be cutting these as holes. So any mark that you make here is going to get covered up. And I am going to really quickly take my cover out so I can sort of show you and have a direct comparison between what I'm telling you and one that is already finished. Alright, so on this you can tell that we're going to run 3 holes up at the top and 3 holes down at the bottom. We're going to have the 1 hole in the center here, and that's where the elastic closure tie is going to run. So if I use this one as a guide, I think I put a little over 1/4 of an inch in between each of the holes. And use your own judgment for that. That is also going to have a lot to do with the actual spine of your book. I'm gonna say it's more like 3/8 of an inch than 1/4 of an inch, but again, you just sort of eyeball what looks good to you. All right, so basically for this, I'm just gonna come in here, I'm gonna line one of the vertical lines here on my ruler, and I'm just gonna come over maybe 3/8 of an inch on either side of it, which this ruler happens to be marked in 8ths, so I'm just moving over 3 lines. And that is going to be where the 3 holes sit here. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to come in, move over 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. That is going to be the 3 holes. Now, I'm going to punch the holes with my tool and my mallet. I am going to speed the video up a little bit while I do this, and I'm going to cut the volume off because you definitely don't want to hear me smashing this mallet into this table. So basically what I'm going to do is place this little protective surface up under where I plan on putting my holes. I will set this directly on top of what I want to make, or where I want to make the hole, and pop it with the mallet, and that is what is going to make my hole for me. That's going to be the size of my hole. They do make these in different sizes, so I'm going to poke all 7 of these holes, and I will be right back. Alright, those are my 7 holes. Alright, so really all that's left is going to be to string the elastic. And so whatever elastic that you have laying around is fine, and you just want to make sure that you can make several passes up and down as far as this is concerned. So I like to make sure that it can go up and down through each of the holes. So I'm going to say 1, 2, doesn't have to be any kind of exact measurement. I know that there are going to be 4 strips of elastic in here, so you want to make sure that the amount of elastic you have can do that. So here are 4 different ones, and yeah, that's going to be a little loose, but that's okay because we will cut off the excess at the end. So just cut that off, and that is going to be sufficient for this. And if you want to go ahead while you're working with that and cut off the elastic that you're going to need for the actual closure itself, you just want to make sure that it is going to cover the book. You don't want it to have too much give, so this is going to be an absolute plenty for that. And we're going to set that off over here to the side. Alright, so to string the elastic, let's look at the one that we have made. You're going to start on one of the 2 sides. It doesn't matter which one. I like to have this knot in the back of my book. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. It's going to be in one of the books or one of the actual inserts anyway, so it really doesn't matter where this sits, but it gives you a place to start. So you're going to run up through this first hole, across to the middle hole. You're going to come down. You're going to do the same thing on the other side and run it across to the 3rd hole here, back up, across, down, across, and back up to meet this initial one. So that's probably going to work out a lot better in practice and be a lot easier to understand in practice. Let's make sure that is the front of my cover. Alright, so here I am. I'm going to run up through this first one. Just make sure that you leave a tail. I'm going to come back in through the middle here, run it all the way down, through this side, up to the top. We're going to go back in to this middle hole, which is a little easier to do when you can see what you're actually doing. Just move that elastic out of the way. Sometimes, depending upon your hole and depending upon the thickness of your elastic, sticking the elastic through the second time can start to get a little tight, but just work with it and you'll be fine. And give it a little bit of give for now. Same thing, we're going to come back in through the middle hole on the bottom. Move that out of the way so that we can get in here. Back up through the final hole. And then you don't want it to curl like this. You want it to be sort of taut, but not to actually curl your book too much. And this will also vary slightly on the amount of pull you want to add, depending upon how sturdy your cover is. This is a really sort of flimsy, you know, material, so it's going to have a little bit of curl up here at the top. But something like this that's a lot more sturdy, it's a lot stiffer, you know, is not going to really have any curl to it except for right at the very end. So just based on the kind of material that you're using, you want it tight, but you don't want it to really be affecting the overall shape of your book. And then you're just going to basically tie this in a knot to where it's tight. You're going to trim off any excess that you don't want. And that is going to be the elastic strung to hold your inserts in. Alright, so for this middle hole here, you're going to fold your elastic in half. Go through the center. Leave some here, just keep a hold of it. Make sure that it's going to reach around your journal fine, nice and tight, so that it will in fact keep it closed. This is going to be fine. You're going to open it back up and tie your knot. You can adjust the give if you think it happens to be a little bit too tight or too loose. That seems about right for me. And then all that is left to do is trim off any excess. The elastic pretty much holds, so you're not going to have to worry about it coming undone. But you can get in there and undo it if you want to. And I'm just going to go ahead and sit what would be my journals in here the way that I have my other ones set up so that you can see it completed. But that is pretty much it as far as this cover is concerned. So it is really simple. You want to measure your journal size out, make sure that you have it centered, and then you poke 7 holes for 4 elastics running like this, and 1 in the closure. And this is how it looks when it's complete, just like this one. And at this point, you know, if you want to add something like a journal charm or something on here, this is one that I have sitting around that I thought would be super cute. I may go ahead and add to one of my journal covers. So you would just take this, open it up, plop it on your string, or you could do that before you put your string in. It just depends on, you know, what you want to do with it. You can get one that has put a lobster clasp on here or something like that, so that it's easy to take on and off. But then you just embellish it however you want and add a little extra oomph, a little extra zhuzh to your journal cover. But that is it. That is exactly how I made the one that I use on a daily basis. That is how I made the others that I have here. This one doesn't have a closure on it because it sets so nicely without one. I didn't think that it needed it, but you could certainly add one to this as well. I also didn't want to take away from the beautiful design on the front cover. So these are the different options that you have available. And like I said, I didn't even poke holes in this one. I just ran the elastic. And This one just happens to have the elastic run through the holes twice because the holes were fairly large, and I knew that it would hold quite a bit, so I ran it through twice instead of running it through once. You can do that, or you can use a jump band to add more inserts into something like this. And basically what a jump band is another piece of elastic that is going to run up and down the length of the journal and tie off. So I'm going to put together a super quick jump band for you also real quick so that you can see what I'm talking about when I say jump band. Alright, that'll suffice. Let me grab a couple of inserts here. So if you have 4 elastics in your journal and it's really equipped to hold more than that, you want it to hold more than that, but you don't know how, you take your elastic, wrap it around one of your inserts. Well, if I can find the middle here, we're going to wrap it around one. Then we are going to take and do the same thing. Put the second journal in the other side, and now you have this happening. And then run these 1 through 1 elastic, and it's going to sit here like this. So you have 2 inserts hooked to 1 band. So you could do this for each one of these. So that is essentially how a jump band works, so that you can expand your traveler's notebook without poking more holes or running more elastic through the cover itself. So if there is anything in this that I have left out, any questions that you have, go ahead and ask them in the comments below. I will get back to each and every one of you as best I can. Again, I will link all of the supplies that I used to put this together in the description box below. If you do want to see how I make inserts, let me know in the comments below, and I will be happy to do a tutorial on that as well. And if there are other videos that you would like to see here on the channel, make sure that you leave those in the comments below also, because I try to accommodate each and every one of them, and I will add it on my list of videos to make. I put out new videos on each Tuesday and Friday, in addition to the daily vlog. So I am always looking for new ideas for that. Yep, go down and give this video a thumbs up again if you found it at all helpful. Make sure that you're subscribed if you haven't already. And until next time, happy journaling, everyone. I will see you later. Bye.